Gonna go ahead and get started. Welcome to our new module, Module 155. We're going to wrap up our coding lessons in this module. You're going to learn radiology coding, path and lab, medicine, and a little bit of inpatient. So in this module. So the first chapter we're working on that actually started today is chapter 24, radiology. So let's go through that. What makes radiology coding so different? So radiology coding is very subjective. Photos are subjective, so appears to be consistent with, similar to, suggestive of. If you hear those words, you do not code it. Why not? Because that means it's not a confirmed diagnosis. We only want to code anything that's confirmed. Appears, consistent with, similar to, that's not saying that they have that diagnosis for sure. There are rule outs. So images are often ordered to rule out a condition. So when we look back at that other slide, if it said a patient appears to have, or, consistent with, they're going to require some type of radiology treatment, whether it's an MRI or an X-ray, to get the actual picture to make that confirmed diagnosis. So images are often ordered to rule out a condition. So here we go. If the patient complains of RUQ, abdominal pain, and you hear rule out cholelithiasis. So that means they're going to take an X-ray or some type of other image radiology treatment to make sure that the patient doesn't have cholelithiasis. So they think that the patient might have it, but they want to rule it out. Here's another one: shortness of breath for 2 days. They want to rule out pulmonary embolism. So anytime you hear like rule out, they're probably going to use radiology or some type of test to make sure that it's not that illness. So what's codable? An abdominal ultrasound is ordered. A reason for the visit, that's coded. If you want to rule out hernia, that's coded. Findings, you're going to code that, or no hernia found. So if we don't know for sure what a patient has, we're not going to code it. That's basically the bottom line of this. So if we don't know what a patient has for sure, you never code it. You always want to make sure that you have the exact diagnosis to go with what the patient is in for. That's where radiology comes into play to help confirm a diagnosis. Now, there are different types of radiology procedures. So if you have your CPT manual and you want to look through it while I talk about this, that's fine. Plus, we're going to do some coding examples, so this will help too. So in your CPT manual, the 70,000 series is radiology. You have MRI, which is also magnetic resonance imaging. It's really important that you know what MRI means, that it stands for magnetic resonance imaging. You have CT, computerized tomography. Know what CT means, because the reason I say that is because you may have like MRI, but you have to look up the code, and you may not be able to find MRI, but you find magnetic resonance imaging. So if you don't know what that means, then you might have trouble. And yes, you do have Google and you do have help like that, but it just kind of helps when you know that. An ultrasound, nuclear medicine, PET, which is a positron emission tomography, mammography, fluoroscopy, X-ray, and then interventional procedures. So there's a lot that goes into radiology, not just X-rays. That's what we think of when we think of radiology, MRIs, those kinds of things. But there are a lot of other things that go into that. So let's talk about MRI, magnetic resonance imaging. The MRI uses a powerful magnetic field, radio frequency pulses, and a computer to produce detailed pictures of organs, soft tissues, bone, and virtually all other internal body structures. So MRI is what's used to really show internal injuries. They often use a paramagnetic contrast material. So MRI is what's used if you've ever had one, if you've ever seen one, you lay flat, you have to lay perfectly still, you're pushed into this little like round tube and you can't move at all. And that's what it does. It takes pictures of your internal, of anything in your body, inside. Next we have CT, computed tomography. I know you've heard CT. Let's get her a CT scan if you watch those medical shows on TV. So what CT does is it combines special X-ray equipment with sophisticated computers to produce multiple images or pictures of the inside of the body. Typically, that's done with contrast material. What is contrast material? It's something that's given either intravenously, orally, sometimes rectally. The contrast material helps certain things to stand out in your body so that they can be seen when this is done. Intravenously, when contrast is given orally, that is not considered a with contrast. What I mean by that is there are radiology procedures that will say, have in the description with contrast. So if the contrast is given orally, you might want to make a little note of this. If the scenario states that the contrast was given orally, you're not going to code that it was done with contrast. Another word for CT or computed tomography is cross-sectional imaging. So you might hear cross-sectional imaging, and that basically is the same thing as CT. Next, we have ultrasound ultrasonography. Ultrasound imaging involves exposing part of the body to high frequency sound waves to produce pictures of the inside of the body. So ultrasound, if you've ever been pregnant, had a baby, know someone who has, they get the ultrasound, they rub the thing on their belly, and that's what it is. Like you expose a part of your body, they rub the thing on it, and it shows the picture inside the body. An ultrasound does not use radiation, and it's captured in real time. Nuclear medicine. This is a branch of medical imaging. It uses small amounts of radioactive material to diagnose or treat a variety of diseases. So nuclear medicine is an example of that is PET, which is positron emission tomography. So if you've ever heard of people say she's getting a PET scan, that's what PET is. It's typically used in the diagnosis and staging of cancers. If you ever know somebody who was dealing with cancer or having issues with cancer and you heard PET scan, that's what it is. It's used to help diagnose it and tell which stage it is. A mammography, is a low-dose X-ray system to examine breast. It aids in the diagnosis and early detection of breast diseases in women. So women get mammographies to hopefully, especially if you're at risk, you want to detect, make sure you don't have breast cancer, and mammography, or it's called a mammogram, is the best way to tell if you do. Fluoroscopy X-ray. This involves exposing a part of the body to a small dose of radiation to produce pictures of the inside of the body. This is the oldest and most frequently used form of medical imaging. Fluoroscopy makes it possible to see internal organs in motion using the same technology as X-ray. So it's basically like taking an X-ray, but there's the fluoroscopy that helps to get more of the internal part of the body. Oops. And then we have interventional medicine. Interventional is a treatment of a patient's condition, not just diagnosing it. So one thing that we want to know, that intervention that you want to notice is it is for treating a condition. Usually it's CT or US guided biopsies. like a paracentesis or a thoracentesis. So if you hear about that, those are things that are interventional. So that used to treat. Those are all those are just brief descriptions of the different sections, just so that you can get an idea. Of course, if you have your CPT manual, when you go to each section, it does help you give a little bit of a description of what each procedure does. But just letting you know the vast world of radiology that we have out there. There are a few modifiers that you will use in radiology. So the first one is TC, and that means technical component. That basically means that you're using the machine to take the picture. So if I were to go to like an MRI center and get an MRI, and they're not going to read it, they're just using their equipment to take my MRI, that place that took the MRI can code for my MRI, but they would add TC on the end as their modifier, because TC would mean we did not look at the results, we didn't read the results, we just basically took the picture, we took the MRI. Now, 26 is the professional component. This is the reading of the x-ray by the radiologist or even a physician. So some small offices take x-rays in the office, the physician looks at them, and so the physician wouldn't, honestly, if it's in the office, the physician would not have to use a modifier. But professional component would be if the x-ray was taken outside the office, like at the MRI place, and then the physician read the MRI results, the physician would put 26 on theirs, if that makes sense. I hope I didn't just go get my words all twisted. But yeah, professional component is only the reading of the test. TC is only using the machine to take it. If you go to a physician and they take the x-rays in the office, no modifiers needed, because they are using their own equipment and the physician is the only one looking at those results. RT and LT are used a lot, so pay attention to like right and left. If things are done on either the right side or the left side, make sure that you put the proper modifiers. You will see 76, which is repeat procedure by same physician. So that means if they have to do another test again, that's repeat procedure. And then 77 is a repeat procedure by a different physician. So if it's the same thing, but done by a different physician, then 77 would be used. So pay attention to these modifiers and just make a note in your CPT manual that these are the most commonly used with radiology procedures. Okay, any questions about radiology so far? I know it was a lot to kind of go over at once, but that's it. So now we're going to do some coding examples. So the first one is, right, if you have your CPT manual, get it out and start to look up these codes. So what is the code for radiological examination of the eye for foreign body? You can type your answer in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and tell me what you think it is.
I think it's 70328.
Okay. So we have 170328. Any other takers with what they think it might be? Okay, so what is it? It is actually 70300. So let's look at that and see what the difference is between 70300 and 70328. Bear with me 1 second. I need to grab my book. Okay, so let's look at these. So 70300. When you look at that, it says that it is radiologic. Wait, that's wrong. Okay, radiologic examine of the teeth. And we're looking for the body.
Yeah, I kind of just pick one because I've only seen teeth.
They're all
That's
teeth?
why I picked that one. Yeah, except for the. That's why I just picked out the last one because I didn't know. I was like, they all say teeth.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So it should be 730, 70030, because that's the I. So if you have your book, you can go look at that one. It's right above that 70030. That's of the I for a foreign body. I'm so sorry for that confusion on that one. That must have been, I must have misread those zeros when I was looking this up. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
I know, but I shouldn't have done that. Okay, next one. This one is radiological examinations of mastoids, 4 views per side.
Is it 70120?
Any other answers?
I think it's 70134.
Okay, so let's look at the answer. 70130 is our correct answer. So if we look at 70120, that's less than 3 views per side. So remember, we need 4 views per side. Okay, so that's your key right there. So that's why it's not 70120. 70, what was the other one? 134. That is internal auditory meaty. That is not mastoids. Now, if you look underneath the 70120, that is radiologic examination of mastoids, minimum 3 views per side. So that means you can't have any less than 3, but you can have more than that. So we have 4. So that's why our code is 70130. Does everybody understand how I got that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let's do the next one. MRI of the neck with contrast material.
I think it's 70542.
Okay, any other guesses? Anyone else? All right, we're gonna get the answer. It is 70542. That is correct. It does, if you look at 70540, it is magnetic resonance imaging of the orbit, face, and or neck. And then the 70542 is with the contrast material. So remember that semicolon when you have the big description, and then you have an indented one under it. Everything with the big description, everything after the semicolon gets replaced by the indented description. So that makes that the full meaning. So I hope that makes sense. Here's another one. Computed tomography of the thoracic spine without contrast.
Is it 72128?
We'll see.
I think the same thing.
72128. Any other guesses? All right, let's see. Yay! 72128. So I'm proud of y'all. 72 I was going to go over these. 72125 is without contrast, but it's of the cervical spine. 126 is with contrast, and it is the cervical spine as well. 72128 is without contrast for the thoracic spine. And then 131 is the lumbar spine. So pay attention. That's one thing you want to pay attention to those exact things with the description. It's easy to kind of look over like thoracic spine or the lumbar part of the spine and get that code wrong. So you really have to pay attention to that and with what's in the coding manual. All right, this was a quick one. Are there any questions on the radiology section?
No, ma'am.
My biggest tips for you is just to pay attention to the wording when you're looking at the codes, and also just kind of get familiar with what like CT means. You know, what does CT mean? It means, computed tomography and all of that. So just make sure that you know what those mean. It makes your life easier when you go to look them up. Any questions about anything in the class so far? I mean, you can ask anything. We just started a new module. Do you have any other questions? Any questions about your test, anything? I have a lot of you that are completing this next month.
I know I had emailed you, but I just want to make sure that the labs that I do is just 1 and 2 for Sunday.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. So yes, for MBC 155, labs 1 and 2, daily assignments 1 and 2, that's all you have due this week. So you have daily assignment 1 due today, daily assignment 2 due tomorrow, and then your 2 labs are due by Sunday. Any other questions?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I will let y'all go. If you need anything, I am here. Please reach out. I'm here to help you, and I want you to succeed and be good at this and pass that certification test.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. Y'all have a good night.
You too.
You too.